They've given us a new alert.
Live from the Plutopia News Network, this is the Plutopia Happy Hour. Our guest this evening is Dr. Joe. The Not Ready for Primetime players are here. Maggie Duvall, Scoop Sweeney, John Lebkowski, and our designated driver, Susie Sheeler.
Hey, everyone. Welcome. And welcome, Dr. Joe. Thank you so much for coming by. I think this is going to be a really, really good episode of an uplifting, I hope, episode. I'd like to go ahead and just, give everyone a quick introduction as to who Dr. Joe Eckler is. Dr. Joe has been a psychologist for 14 years and living with chronic illnesses since the age of 15. They've worked in community mental health, university hospitals, nursing homes, veteran affairs hospitals, counseling centers, and now private practice. Since they're a recovering overachiever, Dr. Joe's an author, a coach, a registered yoga teacher, and is trained as a death and mourning doula, which I learned a lot about last time. You can find their books, I Can't Fix You Because You're Not Broken, The 8 Keys to Freeing Yourself from Painful Thoughts and Feelings, and You Can't Fix Them Because They're Not Broken, a sustainability guide for tired helpers and healers. Anywhere books are sold, they've been known to dress as a unicorn repeatedly.
Hi. Oh, thank you so much for having me here and just giving me an opportunity to spend a happy hour with y'all and share whatever I can that might be helpful for the folks who are out there.
Yeah, welcome. One of the first, I guess, things as I asked you the last time we spoke, and I think it's maybe not a lot of people still are aware of what it is. I am, but I would like to give everyone the chance to ask, what is a doula? Is there a difference between a death doula and a mourning doula, or are they both the same?
Yeah, so a lot of people have heard of a doula for birth. It's someone who is there to help kind of emotionally and practically get through the process of childbirth and often pregnancy as well. And on the way out of life, a death doula does a similar thing, both for the person who is passing and for any loved ones or family who are around. So offering, just some basic education if people need it, just helping with logistics or holding some space, trying to help people with whatever they might need. Maybe it's just handing Kleenex, maybe it's just being there. And then a mourning doula helps the family afterwards. So sometimes it's to the degree of helping with a home funeral and a green burial and just some very hands-on stuff. Sometimes it's more like going with them to the funeral home to help them make arrangements or making phone calls or just making sure people have food and are remembering to eat and sleep and take showers, things like that. So yeah, they can be very helpful. It's not something I'm actively doing, but I loved that exists, and I learned so much when I was training, and there are some really great ones out there. So
Such a great idea. I mean, everyone needs support.
Yeah.
I wish we still lived in communities like that, exalted and, well, maybe not exalted, but supported people who do that for a living. It would be a cool trade-off. You wouldn't have to hustle and help people.
Right.
We could just help people.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool if we could just trust everybody to help each other?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any general questions before I get into the thing that I kind of wanted to talk about that may or may not take up some time? Okay. I really would like to discuss, because I have these people in my life right now who are embarrassed and have regret, Trump regret. Mm-hmm. And they are well, like I said, they're embarrassed. They don't know how to admit that they were wrong without looking wrong, without admitting, that's ego. How do you, I guess just because we've already realized, a few things, meet them where they are, or do we expect them to continue and eventually meet us? And they're coming to these realizations.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're talking about people who are already saying like, okay, this wasn't the way to go, or I don't believe in this anymore, or I want to make some changes, like people
Right.
who are already there.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, you don't have to do anything. You know, that's one of the things with forgiveness is you don't have to.
All right. Well,
You
thanks
know,
for being on the show. Well,
but if you want to do something and you want to do some work with forgiveness and kind of how to build a relationship, then well, okay. So the forgiveness part is internal. Like that's for you. You decide if you want to forgive somebody. You don't ever have to tell them. You don't have to have contact with them. Forgiveness is really more like reclaiming your energy back from them. Like I'm not going to sit here and stew about them. I'm not going to ruminate. I'm not going to like keep throwing daggers at them. I'm just going to kind of take that energy back and say, okay, what happened happened. I wasn't okay. And it's not going to be any different if I sit here and stew about it longer. Like I'm going to take that energy and spend it somewhere else. And you may or may not tell that person. You may or may not ever talk to them again. They might be dead, whatever. So forgiveness is like this internal thing. And then the thing that I've found most useful in my own thinking about how to relate to people who are sort of coming out of the Trump fog or coming out of the QAnon fog is really in the work about cults and people who are coming out of cults. And so one of the things that's hard to realize if you haven't been on that side of things in like Trump land and Q land is that a lot of people were very lonely and found community. And they found people who would cheer them on social media if they did something or said something or posted something. They found a purpose. They found a way to make sense of all of this crap that's going on. I hope I can say that word.
Of course, this is Plutopia. You can say whatever you want.
Okay. And it helped them make sense of the world and get like just something to believe in and hang on to and people to be with. You were talking about how come we can't live in community anymore. So there was a big community around this stuff, and there still to a lesser degree is. So if people are wanting to come out of that and we all step back and we say, no, you can't come over here, they're not going to have anywhere to land, and it'll be very easy for them to go back. And so
Right.
If people are willing and have the space and the emotional room to say, okay, well, this is someone that I care about in my life, and they're reaching out and they're saying they want to do something different, like kind of giving them some reasons like to be glad they left can be helpful.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
if it's all rejection, if it's all criticism, if it's all pointing fingers and why didn't you, they're going to say like, well,
Right.
I'm going to go back. Like, why would I be over here? But if it's like, hey, we're glad to see you. Let's have a maybe not a birthday party right now, but like,
I'll Zoom you later.
I'd be okay with that if we could have a birthday cake.
You can have a cake, like just having some
Yeah.
ways to connect and rebuild a relationship can help people sort of regain a sense of your humanity too. Like, oh wait, this person, that the Trump group was vilifying, this person's actually a human, like, and I like them, and that can also make it easier for them to humanize other people that they might have fallen into the trap of just dehumanizing, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, yeah.
It does. What about do you think that there's an identifiable group of people that could be swayed towards the light? are these people lost forever? I mean, I know there are some obviously who are saying, okay, Trump's enough with all of that stuff, but they are still there's a layer right after them, and then still 49% of the country. Are they lost to us?
Yeah, I can't say because I don't know all of them. So I think it
You
depends.
don't?
Yeah, and there's so many factors that go into elections, and I mean, in voting, and we know how complicated all of that is, right? So it's really, I think it's more whoever you have around you that you might be able to connect with. It can be helpful, and really the work of Steve Hassan and the Freedom of Mind Institute is really useful for anyone who's trying to help somebody who's in any kind of group that has like some layer of like thought control, or I mean, I'm not saying like all of Trumpism is, but there is a big chunk that is Steve Hassan wrote a book, The Cult of Trump, which might be interesting to folks too. And so really looking at, okay, if you go in and just, oh, you found him. Yeah. And you've probably seen him or heard him somewhere. He's interviewed like all the time.
Yeah, I've heard of.
Yeah, he's an ex-Moonie. And so
Wow.
so he spent the rest of his life trying to help people get out. And if you come in hard and you do some kind of drastic intervention, then people can sometimes get firmer in their beliefs. But just he has some good tips on like how to have conversations to help people maybe start looking at what they're doing and thinking a little more critically and decide if it still fits them. You know?
Well, and I would say too that when you give people a hard time, like you're going right into shaming, and that's the thing that nobody wants to be shamed, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
We have to adult up, I guess, is what has to happen.
Only if you want to. I mean, that's a lot of labor, right? So it's only people who feel like they have that space to do that. You know.
Yeah, I have some people that I noticed on Facebook. These are people I grew up with that I've known for 60, 70 years, and very conservative, and they went, full tilt Trump. And I noticed some of them posting things that gave me a hint that they were feeling, I don't say feeling stupid, but feeling taken or feeling, used. And I just stepped up and sent them personal messages saying, I think I see, what you're trying to say. And, feel free to talk to me anytime and we can talk about your feelings. And a couple of them followed through on it. And it was kind of nice. It was better than going and calling them stupid and say, yeah, you really blew it, didn't you? It's like, that's not going to accomplish anything.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about when I was thinking about these questions. Was just like, we love some of these people, very much. I mean, some of them are my family, and I never wanted to lose them. I don't want to lose them. They have some of them are no longer Trumpers. I don't know. Some of them are no longer Trumpers, and but they do feel betrayed, very betrayed. And that word to me about Trump is concerning, because these people are not stupid, but they're careful with where they get their news. Wall Street Journal is a big influence. Fox News, not so much, but Rush Limbaugh was. But mostly the Wall Street Journal and the Telegraph, or whichever one is British, Wall Street Journal. But I'm thinking, and they are referred to themselves as the silent majority. But I'm thinking, are these people purposely avoiding the news and all of these moral horrors, or do they know and they just didn't care?
It's hard to know, like a lot of times we kind of see what we want to see, or we kind of can explain things away, or it sounds like those folks that you're mentioning have had like a pretty okay news source. Some people who feel particularly betrayed and it may have been really surprising that they became Trumpers. They may have fallen into some QAnon stuff because apparently, from what I've heard and read, QAnon radicalized people extremely quickly, especially through YouTube videos that like the algorithm keeps suggesting them. And then you watch something about rabbits and then 3 videos later you're into like Plandemic and like all of the other stuff.
Wow.
I mean, not that dramatically, but
but I understand what you're saying. It's
especially early in the pandemic. Yeah.
It's basically getting into a role-playing game, but not having a suspension of disbelief.
Yeah. And then it didn't pan out. And so now people are lost and they had spent so much energy and time in that game that they didn't realize was a game or whatever it was. So yeah, now they're feeling really lost because they had a serious sense of purpose and community.
And what is the cult? What is the draw? I mean, I think we talked a little bit about I guess it's a sense of belonging, is the draw to the cultism and the not wanting to be alone. And then the guilt that they must feel after. Like, I mean, I know there had to have been a layer of guilt for these low-key Trump supporters who voted twice for him when they watched the Capitol being attacked. How do we help? I mean, I want to alleviate that. You know, yes, there was an enabling because of there was voting, but I just, I don't know. I feel like they want to re-enter society, but they're just afraid because they've been I don't know, abandoned for so long. And it's, it's just these pockets of older white people.
Yeah.
But I don't, and so that's when they say, oh, well, I feel like I'm being silenced. Well, I want you to be able to talk. So how do I, alleviate a guilt that I don't have any purpose or reason, or place to alleviate? That's, I guess, between them and their own conscience.
Yeah. I mean, if they're people you're close to, you can even talk to them, just bring it up like broadly, like, hey, I'm hearing a lot of people kind of expressing these feelings, about Trump and how, they thought it was kind of a good plan to start. And then things got way out of hand and, and just about how easy it can be to be drawn into something and, and someone can present something as a good idea, just kind of talking about how we can all get fooled, right? We can all get sold something that we think is one thing and it turns out to be something else.
Well,
just kind of normalizing that.
Well, and that's something I've thought about a lot is that, I consider myself a highly intelligent person, but I got taken in by a guy that I was into and I thought he was just this incredible whatever. And then it turns out like he was pretty horrible. Right. And, got out of that and everything, but wow, I really got taken in. I was so wanting to I was so projecting something on who I thought this person was that it took me a really long time once I woke up to dismantle that. And I'm just kind of shocked that I was taken in. But then again, I spent 15 years as a single mom, and it's like, yay, finally, and I was like, oh, maybe not. But, I don't beat myself up anymore, but a lot of people are like, well, how did that happen? Why couldn't you see it? Like, well, I had a discussion with my daughter and she said, well, it's easy for us to see it in other people, but we can't spot it in ourselves. So anyway.
Yeah, exactly. People can be very charming and nobody walks up and says, hi, I'm a jerk. Would you like to go out with me? I'm going to do these horrible things to you. I'm going to take all your money and I'm going to beat you up and I'm going to do this and that. Like people don't start out that way. They say, oh, I'm going to offer you everything you ever wanted. Like,
and more.
And more.
and more, aren't they? Yeah, those are classic. My family and I were taken in by one of those as well. So it's not, and I was the daughter in that case. So I totally get where you come from on that, Maggie. What is the cultiest cult you think there's ever been? We had one here. Do you guys remember the one we had here that was the Children of God? They built the
Not the thong guy, the thong
One World
dancer
Theater.
man.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He was awesome. They used to shop at Whole Foods.
We've had a lot of cults in Austin, including the InfoWars cult.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I had experienced a lot of those cults living out in Berkeley and in the Bay Area at the height of their popularity. You know, the Moonies. I mean, I had many friends who were disappeared by the Moonies, and they showed back up years later, very humiliated and just beating themselves up because they knew they'd been taken, and they really couldn't explain why. You know, the Trump people, I think their situation was compounded by COVID because of the lockdown and the isolation of many people who had nothing else to do but listen to Fox News and go to the news groups online, go to their favorite Facebook conspiracy site. And it just really made a bad situation horribly worse.
And very public.
Yeah, no feedback, no grandchildren in the living room saying like, why are you watching this? Let's change the channel. It's just, and fear, when we're scared and somebody offers us a clear answer, of course we're tempted. Of course.
Yes,
if
absolutely.
Somebody says like, I know what caused this. I know what you can do. Like, yeah, we want to know that.
I just don't want to cross the bridge and find out Xenu is all a lie. Right. That's all I'm saying. No, Xenu. Yeah, because here's something else. How do you think exemptions when you're a cult, but you call yourself a church? How does that, where's the line there between cult and church? I don't understand how you make that distinction.
There is no line.
Oh, that's probably why you can't make the distinction.
Well,
yeah.
I guess a cult is a church that hadn't been around long enough to call itself a church.
Huh. Yeah, I guess
think
so.
about it. I mean, it's a matter of becoming established, right? So various religions become established. They are sort of cult-like until they spread and become established and widely adopted. What it's really about is about belief.
Mm-hmm. Well, why do you think Hubbard and Miscavige worked so hard pressing the IRS and threatening the IRS to get their status as a church,
And they're literally a fucking cult.
Right.
I mean, they kidnap people. They're insane. They're absolutely insane. And I do think,
No, I don't think they're insane.
Oh, I do.
I think
I offer
I think they're a
Xenu.
business.
Power hungry business. Yes.
Oh, they're a total.
Insanity is a legal term. Like they're probably going to come get me now, but they're very. The whole setup is incredibly, brilliantly manipulative to be so powerful and such a double bind that it's very hard to. Yeah, it was. If I was going to make something super manipulative and controlling like that, that is the perfect setup.
We want to learn how to do that. We're trying to start a Plutopia cult, and
we have been actually
we haven't been successful so far. Yeah.
No, we got nothing. We got absolutely nothing. No traction.
Well, I mean, we have some followers, but they're not.
Well, our problem is, we don't ask for a lot of money. I mean, we don't make an effort. I mean,
We can fix that.
It doesn't take much to become a follower.
all the cardinal rules of cults. I mean, you have to be money hungry, and yeah, I'm not that hungry unless you're offering me tacos. And
I need some kind of MLM scheme thing.
There you go. Right. There you go. That's what we need. Multi-level marketing would be, and that's what they do. That's basically what they do. And they use that, and I may have said this before on the show, I don't remember, but relevant. The like State Farm, I believe it is, uses the Scientology method of training their staff. So they've got these training programs. Is that crazy?
Why my agent
just made my brain explode.
Really weird. It's really weird. And then, I mean, at first,
I think it was Allstate, not State Farm.
Allstate. Yeah. Okay.
Because that's my current one. So now I've got another creepy cult.
Excellent. They're everywhere. I just can't wait till they come out from, behind the Oval Office door. Hey, I haven't even passed the 6th bridge, and look where I am. I know too much about Scientology, I think.
I know a ton. Yeah.
Do you? Oh my God.
So why do you guys know so much about Scientology?
I'm fascinated.
It's fascinating.
There's someone that I know who, when she was a kid, was in Scientology. They fled Scientology, and she's told that story. It's kind of scary,
It's heartbreaking too. Yeah.
It's hard work to get out of Scientology.
It's hard work to be a kid in Scientology.
Yeah.
Just to be a kid.
And then it's terrible. Your doorbell rings, you come to the door, and there's Tom Cruise. He says, "I'm going to take you back."
No, he does not get his hands dirty with that shit. No.
There's a number of them too that I think one of the most insidious things is, separating parents from their children, just like, from Scientology. Well, right. But also I wrote an article in the 90s about Gabriel of Sedona, because I'd seen this report on NBC News. So I wrote up it was like early blog post about these folks, and same thing. And I wrote this post, and it got a lot of hits, for the time. And a number of the kids that had been separated from their parents reached out to me and asked me if they could post my article on, some of their information sites, because they were absolutely devastated because their parents had left. It's like, sorry, I'm giving up everything to Gabriel of Sedona, and, all their money went to him, and they weren't allowed to see their kids. And so that's the thing that's always perplexed me, that you would choose your church over your children. I just never have gotten that one.
Well,
no, go ahead.
Okay.
I mean, it's just for very weak and people in very bad places, unless you were brought up in it, I think.
Oh. Well, it's not necessarily weak people. It's part of the reason I got fascinated with cults is I have done a lot of work with trauma, especially abusive relationships. And it's the same tactics. The same tactics that pull someone in and keep someone in an abusive relationship are very similar to the things that pull people in and keep them in a cult. It's just on a broader scale. And sometimes money's involved, sometimes it's not. But it's from the outside, kind of with the Trump stuff, from the outside, it doesn't make sense. From the outside, we're like, oh, you're so weak. I'd never do that. But
and I don't mean weak mentally. I mean just in a bad
vulnerable
place.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I should have said.
Yeah, but you don't even have to be in a bad place, but that makes it much more likely. But there's a whole alternate reality that gets created and supported, and you get cut off from people who could contradict that reality and give you a reality check. And then you don't have support, you don't have resources. The group that you're in or the relationship you're in is everything. And so then even if you decide, you kind of wake up a little bit and you decide to leave, what are you going to go to? people who come out of groups like Scientology, they often, if there were kids or joined early, they often don't have much education, don't have any jobs that they can list, even though they work their butt off. They don't have money, so they make it very hard to go anywhere. Just like in a relationship, it might be really hard to leave because maybe you don't have a car anymore. Maybe they took all your money. Maybe your friends won't talk to you because your partner has been such a jerk to them and drove them all away, and your family's mad you stayed with them. And
that's a really good analogy. Actually, I never brought it to microcosm. That's brilliant.
Yeah, because they, like in my situation, he was telling me that nobody was really my friend. It's all bullshit. Anybody who's a friend on Facebook, even though they're my friends in real life, they don't care about you. That's all. I look back and I'm like, wait, wow, this narrative was really fanciful and amazing. But I was like, okay, again, like a toy. But yeah, it is. It's really, and it's like the frog in the aquarium slowly heating up. It's not until you're way into it then you start, the warning bells start going off. But sometimes you're so far in, that, I just really feel, and this is something that I was concerned about during the lockdown or the, shutdown with COVID, is all those people who were trapped in those kind of reality, nowhere to go. You're already isolated from everybody. Oh my gosh, what a mess. Just scary.
Yeah, Maggie, it sounds like that person was doing the same thing that some of my my friends that were former Moonies experienced, of being cut off from family, friends. They were all the enemy, and they were just, it's almost like it was out of the, I'll probably get the Godwin flag thrown on me for this one. It was out of the Nazi playbook. That was their favorite thing, alienate the person by, demonizing the other, whoever the other is. The other is always on, someone that they don't want you contacting.
Well, and all of your problems are their fault.
It's increasingly hard not to invoke Godwin's law.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that force you to break.
It's about the inevitability that Nazi analogies will come up, or fascist analogies. And they're coming up a lot more now because
there's a lot more
sense. Yeah, exactly.
We just need to educate ourselves on more than just the Nazis, because there were dictators and people like this way before the Nazis. And they did some horrible things, but we got to reference some other stuff because it does kind of cheapen. You know what I mean? It's like you can't just compare everything to Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. That's not.
How about Caligula? How do we start Caligulizing them?
I like that. I like that a lot.
That's a throwback.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's.
I'm an old guy. I date back to Caligula's time.
Can do some Mussolini. There's lots of stuff. There's lots. There's so many. We could even do Gaddafi.
Do we have to?
I just have this list going through my head of all.
Wait, is that a dance?
Yes. Have you not learned the Gaddafi? It's all the rage.
Are you going to show us, Susie?
No, I don't have room.
Really?
Oh, okay.
So now the people are betrayed, and they have recognized, and now they're starting to blame Trump. Right. So we're turning a corner where they're saying, wait a minute. And they're not getting the answer they want. Does this feel to you like it's an inevitable clash again among Americans?
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so many things happening that are bad. It's hard to know how it's going to land, how people are going to make sense of it, or who they're going to blame for it, or how are we going to end up someday working together to deal with all of this? Are we going to keep splitting up? Yeah, it's just.
Maybe the real question is how can you forgive a psychopathic narcissist? who is not about to become anything but what he is. How do you, I mean, forgiving him is hard because he doesn't do forgiveness,
That's right. But isn't there something about being forgiving someone for yourself, kind of
well, that's what Joe said earlier.
Yeah, right. So, but I don't think I'm do you have to just achieve a space to do that? Because I am not there.
Oh, you don't have to forgive.
I'm gets exiled to the Bill Clinton seating area, and he can go over into that zone and stay there along with ex-President Bill.
And you don't have to forgive him. It's like, that's up to you. Or even if you like how much attention you want to pay to him, if you don't have to, there's a book called Why Won't You Apologize by Harriet Lerner. She wrote The Dance of Anger, which was really popular at one point.
I do remember that one.
Yeah. And so she talks in there about kind of dealing with, I can't quote her very well right now, but dealing with kind of situations like that too, where it's like, okay, you got this person, they're probably never going to apologize, and kind of how different ways that you can decide to deal with that for yourself. Or if you want to confront them, how to confront them.
Right. I found that after my divorce back in 2002, after probably about 8 months of just seething and trying to contain it because I didn't want it spilling over on my daughter and stuff like that. I remember the night it happened, I just made the decision, like, you know what? I'm tired of this churning up my gut. It's not affecting him in any way. It doesn't do anything. Like, maybe I should what if I just let this go? It's not excusing anything or whatever. And at that moment, everything shifted for me. And I could breathe again, because I physically wasn't feeling it churning in my gut. And so the way I thought about it was like, how do I do my self-care? It's not like forgiving, but because it was always churning in my thoughts, I wasn't able to do anything else but seethe. And so I thought that was in a way a kind of the best revenge, so to speak, because if I would go into my joy and my interest instead of hemorrhaging my energy to him, it would feel better. And it did. That's when things really started changing. So that's one of the ways I've dealt with, the Trump stuff and everything.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, someone who's a narcissist, they thrive on attention, right? So kind of one of the biggest things you can do is withdraw your attention, even if it's just you're seething or, because righteous anger is a really good drug. You can get really high on righteous anger. I don't know about y'all, but I can. And so, but if I can slow that roll a little bit and kind of cut myself off from just feeding it, I do, the churning stops and I can pay attention to something else. But yeah, it's hard. This isn't easy, I'm saying things like they're simple. They're not simple.
No, it's of course not. I think everybody understands that. It's just it's a sort of I think the idea of thinking about these relationships and how we deal with them now is kind of important because we are trying to come back together, I think, as a nation, and it's really hard. It's really, really difficult because there were points where I know people would never say me, but I know people who said, I will never forgive you to their family, to their partner, their anything. And I mean, now that the partner's woken up, I don't think I could forgive that. I mean, that's, I guess what I'm saying, what should I be looking for in a way to, I don't even know how they forgive themselves.
Right.
And how would you suggest one does? if one just has this, oh my God, I can't believe I did this.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, because ideally you kind of hold yourself accountable, right? Like, so okay, well, I did this thing, and maybe looking at the context, of okay, what are all the factors that were going into me doing this thing, and sometimes that can give us a little bit of understanding of ourselves. Like if you go back and judge something you did as a teenager, you also have to remember that you didn't know all the stuff you know now, right? You didn't even have a fully developed brain, and so you have to look at pieces like that too when you look at it, not as an excuse, but just to like better understand it, and also maybe prevention in the future, and then deciding, okay, well, I'm going to try to make some kind of amends, whether or not anyone knows about it, or I'm at least going to try to make a plan so this doesn't happen again, or that I make a different choice next time.
And forgive me if I just totally missed this, but because I know you asked, like, that someone had asked, like, how do people get in a cult, and what type of person that is, and it could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, any kind of person could get involved in this, right?
Yeah.
And is it mostly about the one person, like it seems to be with Trump, but then once you scratch the surface, I feel like with Trump, you find the whole real thing that's happening, like with the Proud Boys, but the base honestly is just 100% seemingly about him. So is it the ideologue? Is it what is that? Is it
like what drew people in?
Yeah, like why one person? What is this? It seems like a like a Jesus prophet kind of thing.
It's
what
simple.
Is that? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, right? And we might be, I don't know, maybe we're geared to that from like having a parent or parents. Like there's usually somebody that we look to for answers. But yeah, I think the one person can also sort of start spinning things that draw us in, just like in a relationship, and there can be kind of an intimacy there, even if you don't know the person. I mean, how many people put posters on their walls when they were teenagers of like bands or movie stars stuff, and you feel kind of like you have a relationship, but you don't.
Right.
But we can make a connection with one person. We can't really make a connection with an abstraction. And so one person can come to represent something for us.
Do you think he exhibits psychopathic tendencies? Not a diagnosis. Just
okay,
wondering,
I was
not in any way a diagnosis. I'm just wondering, if you think that he hits some of those.
Yeah, there's definitely something going on there. That is clearly dangerous and detrimental to the people around him and to anyone he has power over or has relationships with, so yeah. That.
And what kind of what kind of practices do you suggest for letting this kind of stress go? Meditation or walking or dog interaction, or what when people are just free, like I get really upset, and I know some friends who do too, on Facebook and I mean, I have to take hiatuses. Is that which one is it?
I don't know.
Multiple hiatus.
I like hiatus.
Hiatuses.
Yeah, hiatus sounds better.
Okay, so the hiatus from Facebook, simply because of this, but I'll stay on Twitter or something just to keep up with the news, and I just get furious at people. So how do I bring myself back? I mean, it's everywhere. It's impervious. I mean, you can't get away from it. What should I do?
Well, all the things you mentioned are great. The meditation and movement and dogs and cats and all of those things. It kind of depends what sort of reaction you're having. So, if you're in fight mode, if it's bringing up kind of a fight response, you might be really irritable and agitated and frustrated and resentful and that kind of energy often responds to, well, we want to fight something. So movement is good.
Okay.
Or something where you feel like you can expend some energy. So maybe you sing really loud in your car, or you scream, or you or you write out what you wish you could say, but you don't send it. You write it on paper or something, or you just yell, like something that has like some fight energy, but you're not actually hurting anybody,
right?
But moving it. And if it's more like you start kind of really wanting to move or travel or rearrange your house, or you get spacey or sleepy, like sometimes that's more of a flight response. And that can respond to just about any kind of movement or change can be helpful there. Or even just if you can run or walk or take your wheelchair, whatever, and just move, go for a drive, things like that can help. And the freeze response is where often if you get stuck scrolling and you don't know why, and you're like, why am I still here?
Wow.
Or you're really indecisive, or you've lost track of time, you might be kind of in a frozen state. And so freeze takes some really gentle waking up. So that's where some really gentle movement, or maybe petting the dog, or things that are kind of easy and soft. Because if someone's frozen, you don't want to come out real fast. You shatter the ice, right? If someone's trapped in ice,
right.
You want kind of a melting slowly. So even taking a shower or something like that. But yeah, this is really hard. And I have an Android, and it let me set a timer on apps. And so I have a timer on my social media apps, and it tells me how many minutes I have left. And I could extend it, but I'm trying to be legit. And when it's done, it grays out the icon. And so it's just okay, I'm done. I can't go on there anymore.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, man, I'm going to try that. Is that
yeah.
a feature on your phone?
It's on. I think it's an Android thing. I have it on my Galaxy, but I think iPhone has something equivalent, some kind of wellness.
Very cool. Thing. I'm going to check that out because
that's just cut yourself
I think everybody
off.
needs a break.
Yeah, iOS gives you a report on a weekly basis of how much screen time you had, and that's a real embarrassing thing.
Oh God,
that's a wake up call. Yeah,
that's like Netflix. Are you still watching?
Yeah, one thing that has helped me, avoid the self-inflicted pain. Yeah, I call it, self-inflicted psychic trauma. Dealing with things that happened in the past constantly. I found myself doing that some time back, and I realized that I was hurting myself just by dwelling on these things. I should have done this. Oh, I did that. That was embarrassing. And you bring it up and bring it up, and once I made a conscious effort to not inflict myself with pain, made life a lot easier. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed a lot of people will do that. It's like they're constantly reliving that bad thing they did, or that bad thing that was done to them, and over and over and over. And it's an endless loop.
Mm-hmm.
It's an argument for mindfulness training.
Yeah, mindfulness training can help. But if you're really stuck, and if someone out there is really stuck and can't seem to get out of the loop, it might be something that therapy can help with. Because there's some things that are really hard to process on our own, and that's how we get stuck. But yeah, and I was going to say something.
Well, how would you approach that if somebody was really, really completely stuck in a loop? What strategies work to kind of help them resolve that?
There's a lot. I mean, often the loopy things are something that has a traumatic element to it. So there's a lot of different kinds of therapeutic interventions for trauma. Y'all might have heard of things like EMDR and things like that. And there's some other options too. So sometimes it takes something like that, or a therapist usually knows the questions to ask that can help expand that story and get to what's really keeping things stuck in there. You okay? Is the sky falling?
It was my phone that fell out of my pocket.
Wow. It's like your
It's
time
because
is
it was
up.
afraid I was going to put a timer on it.
It's trying to escape, John. You're
Right.
kind to that phone.
Yeah. But
When you
Susie,
said EMDR, I was
Yeah.
thinking, or maybe EDM.
you could do EDM and dance around. That's fine.
EDM. Oh God, that's relaxing. Will you tell us a little bit about your books and when the first one, what order should they be read, and tell me about the 8 keys.
Yeah. So the first book, the I Can't Fix You Because You're Not Broken, is for anyone who's looking for some help dealing with thoughts and feelings and other sensations that are challenging. So there's some things in there about mindfulness, of course, because I'm a therapist. We love mindfulness for many reasons, but also how to deal with some of those thoughts that help keep us stuck too, like especially like negative self-talk and things like that. And then also how to sit with emotions, because nobody teaches us that. Like, what do we do if we have an emotion and we don't want to just bury it in Netflix or ice cream or whatever? Like, what do you do? And so it talks in there about that too, and about figuring out like what's really important to you and how to put more of that in your life as well. And so it's short but sweet. There's a lot of exercises in there. It's something you can take bit by bit and kind of have as a reference guide. I have that one in audiobook too. And then
is that on Audible?
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And it's in my store too. So
great.
Yeah, it's all right. And then the other book is more for anyone who's who works with clients in some way, in some kind of healing or helping profession. So it's a collection of a whole bunch of things I've learned over time about how to sit with people and just the pain and the problems they're bringing and how to hold space for that. And also some very practical things about dealing with burnout, dealing with issues if you work in an agency or a group practice or someone's studio, or if you're trying to do your own work, how to deal with clients when you've got your own personal crises happening, or if a professional crisis happens at work, or different ways to structure your career so you can keep doing what you want to do over time as the years go by. So it's a whole bunch of stuff, kind of a whole buffet there for anyone who's in those kinds of fields and just wants some tips. It will be on audiobook as soon as I get done recording it. But
that's fantastic. Oh, and it's so exciting. So you say everywhere. Is it's on Audible, and and do you charge? Is there a charge for it, or because does it take a credit?
I'm not sure. And there's actually a whole movement called Audible Gate, because Audible has been really awful to both authors and narrators. They're doing some really shady things, and there's a lot of things being built against a case being built against them, and some other things are being worked on by a dedicated group of people. Yeah, but Chirp is great, and there's so many. There are actually a gazillion. You could go and get like a free trial on a bunch of different.
I know, but I must
audiobook
have
sites. Or the
$1,000 worth of
Audible. Yeah.
Yeah, and Kindle.
It's okay. We'll forgive you, but
yeah. I'll never forgive myself.
But I think my audiobook and my paperback are also. I think the ebook are all in the Austin Public Library. So if you have the e-library, you can check it out there too. So.
And when did you publish?
That one was 2018.
Wow.
And though the audiobook was newer, and then the You Can't Fix Them came out earlier this year. So
that's so great.
Yeah, this year. I was like, what year is it? What's happening?
I know. It's hard to figure. And what do you specialize in? Because you have such a broad range of things that you do. Community, what is most rewarding for you of these things?
I like learning stuff. I'm one of those polymath people, just like learning things. So I've worked with trauma for years and years and years, and work with grief. But right now, one of the things that I'm really loving, because it's such a direct way to make somebody's life better. I hate that it's a thing, but I do a lot of single session evaluations for transgender people and non-binary people who are needing a letter for surgery or for hormones or name and gender marker changes, stuff like that. And it's really nice to have something that makes somebody so happy so easily. You know, as a therapist, we don't get that a whole lot. So yeah, I hate that people have to go through an evaluation to get just basic healthcare that they need. But for now, like, I'm happy to do that as long as it's needed. Hopefully it's not needed very long, but it's really fun. And I get to I can practice telehealth in a lot of states. So I meet trans people from all over the country, and it's really cool.
Wow. Is that a special certificate?
Psychologists can get authorized under PsyPact, PSYPACT, and that's an agreement that a lot of states have made. I think there's like 26 now, that if you're licensed in one of those states, you can do telehealth in any of the PsyPact states. So yeah, it's fun.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was a thing.
It's a thing now.
So okay,
over the old way of you could only do it in one state unless you went and got certified in each state.
Yeah,
they do that with like medical doctors, right? Like if you want to prescribe, at least I think you have to be. I think you have to be registered. I don't know.
Licensure is a state thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I had another question. Oh, what was your is that also your favorite, the one that you're doing now?
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah. And rewarding, and that's so fantastic to be able to do something that you really love. Makes such a difference. It's not just the money. I mean, the money is very important, but doing something that you love and being paid for it, I wish I knew what that was like. Really, I think there are very few people who get to do what they love and make money at it, you know?
Yeah.
Aren't you doing what you love?
Are you paying me?
Oh,
we're paying you.
Once you get the cult off the ground.
We're paying you.
I know.
And kindness.
I didn't fill out a W whatever or an I-9, none of that. So just
is this when we start calling for donations?
Yes. Go fund Susie. I like it. So and everybody's good. Just want to check in with everybody on COVID. Does everybody feel good? Is everyone vaccinated? Mm-hmm. And we're all pro-vaccine here. Well,
I mean, the question is whether your vaccine is going to protect you from having a breakthrough case.
Well,
I thought it was really interesting. I was looking at an article today in New Mexico. You never guess where the highest concentration of new cases are in the state of New Mexico. Let me answer that for you. Right by the Texas border in the southeast, in the oil areas,
Hobbs.
Right? The Basin area, right?
Yep.
And,
what an odd coincidence.
It's so weird, isn't it? And then one of the, but Taos County is the only county in the state which is still yellow, but it's starting to grow. But, you know, it's kind of amazing given all the tourists here.
Wow.
But I think maybe because so many people are outside camping or something and not going to big concerts and whatever, it's really interesting. But it's just been weird having been in Texas and now here, just watching it from the other way around, like, close the border.
I'm finding that some of my friends outside of Texas are really worried about me and are saying,
scary.
Are you okay? Is everything okay down there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm worried about us too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know, we're stuck with that particular governor for right now.
Well, somebody said that, and I believe, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said if Florida were a country, we would have cut them off from coming in a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know what is stopping us from doing that. We're in unprecedented times, and traveling restrictions. I think we did it with alcohol.
We're down
Louisiana.
to our last minute here. We ought to let Joe let us know. Are you vaccinated, Joe?
Yes. Yes.
Right on.
Me too. Thank you so
Okay.
much for coming on the show, Dr. Joe. I can't wait to talk to you again and you come back and see us.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was so much fun. Bye.